The room is quiet. It is late at night in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Snow rests on the old roofs of Harvard University. Most windows have gone dark. Students are sleeping, reading, or talking softly behind closed doors. But one window still glows. Inside a small dormitory room, a young man sits before a computer screen. He wears a gray shirt. His shoulders lean forward. His fingers move quickly across the keyboard. Lines of code appear on the screen. There is no large office here, no team of thousands, no famous blue logo, no company worth billions of dollars. There is only a student, a computer, and an idea about human connection. Outside, people walk through the cold without knowing that something is beginning. Something that will soon enter their homes, their friendships, their businesses, and even their memories. How can a tool built to bring people closer also push them apart? That question follows Mark Zuckerberg through almost every chapter of his life. And near the end of our story, we will return to the choice hidden inside it. The choice between building what is possible and accepting responsibility for what that creation becomes. You will discover how a 12-year-old boy built a communication program for his family. You will follow the friendship, ambition, and conflict behind the birth of Facebook. And you will explore a deeper idea. When one person creates a tool used by billions, where does invention end and responsibility begin? So make yourself comfortable and let the story begin. It was a quiet afternoon in Dobbs Ferry, New York, in the early 1990s. A small village north of New York City. The houses were comfortable. The streets were calm. And inside one of those houses, a boy sat in front of a computer. His name was Mark Elliott Zuckerberg. He was born on May 14th, 1984. His father, Edward, worked as a dentist. His mother, Karen, had trained as a psychiatrist before caring for the family. Mark had 3 sisters. Their home was full of learning. His parents encouraged questions. They gave their children room to explore, and Mark explored deeply. He was interested in many subjects, but computers held a special power over him. A computer followed rules. It responded to logic. Yet, with the correct instructions, it could create something completely new. When Mark was around 12 years old, his father's dental office had a simple problem. The receptionist needed a quick way to tell Dr. Zuckerberg that a patient had arrived. Calling from room to room took time. Mark built a solution. He created a program called ZuckNet. It allowed computers in the house and the dental office to send short messages to each other. It worked like a private messaging system. Years before such tools became part of everyday life, the program did not need to change the world. It only needed to help his family. But it revealed something important about the boy who made it. Mark did not only enjoy understanding machines. He enjoyed using machines to connect people. His father hired a computer teacher named David Newman to give Mark lessons. The lessons soon became unusual. Newman later described the young student as difficult to stay ahead of, because Mark learned so quickly. Mark also built computer games with friends, wrote the code that made stories move across a screen, and studied ancient Greek and Latin languages. He fenced competitively and became captain of his school's fencing team. He was not only a computer child, he was curious about almost everything. During high school, Mark and a friend created music software called Synapse. The program studied a listener's choices and tried to understand what music that person might enjoy next. Large technology companies reportedly showed interest. Mark could have sold the idea or accepted a job. He chose neither path. He went to Harvard, and that decision carried him toward a much larger experiment. It was the autumn of 2002. Harvard University was one of the most respected places of learning in the world. Old buildings stood beside wide green spaces. Students from many countries walked the same paths, and somewhere among them, Mark Zuckerberg arrived with a quiet intensity. He studied computer science and psychology. One subject explained how machines processed information. The other explored how human beings thought, felt, and behaved. It was a useful combination. Soon, Mark became known on campus as a talented programmer. He created a tool called Course Match. It helped students choose classes by showing which courses other students had selected. The program was simple, but the idea mattered. People did not make decisions alone. They watched each other. They followed signals. They wanted to know where their friends were going. Then, in October 2003, Mark created something more troubling. He called it Face Mash. He collected photographs of students from university directories without their permission. He placed them on a website where visitors could compare two faces and vote on who looked more attractive. The site spread quickly. Students clicked again and again, but the excitement did not last. Many people felt angry and exposed. Their photographs had become part of a public game without their consent. Consent means agreement, permission that someone gives freely. Harvard shut the site down within days. Mark faced disciplinary action. Disciplinary action means a formal punishment or warning from an authority. Face Mash revealed two sides of his talent. He understood what attracted attention. He also underestimated the human cost. A face on a screen was not only data, it belonged to a person. Mark apologized. Then he began working on a different idea. And this is the moment everything changed. It was the 4th of February, 2004. Mark Zuckerberg sat in his room at Kirkland House, Harvard. He launched a new website. He called it the Facebook. The first version looked plain. There were no endless videos, no news organizations, No parents sharing photographs of family holidays. No companies buying advertisements. It was a digital map of student identity. You could see a name, a face, a course, a connection. Hundreds of Harvard students registered within the first days. The website spread because it answered a real human desire. Students wanted to see one another. They wanted to belong. They wanted to understand how their social world fitted together. Mark did not build it alone. Eduardo Saverin helped with early business needs and money. Dustin Moskovitz worked on programming and expansion. Andrew McCollum contributed to design. Chris Hughes helped communicate with users. Each person brought something important. By March 2004, the Facebook had thousands of users across Columbia, Stanford, Yale, and other universities. Fast growth also created pressure. Who owned the idea? Who controlled the company? Who deserved credit? A legal conflict arose from students named Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss and Divya Narendra. They claimed that Mark had delayed their similar project while building his own. Mark denied stealing their idea. The disagreement became a legal battle. Years later, the parties reached a settlement. A settlement is an agreement between two sides that ends a legal dispute without a full court decision. It reminds us that great companies do not always begin with clean lines and perfect friendships. Sometimes they begin inside confusion. Trust weakens. Memories differ. People who once shared a room later speak through lawyers. If you enjoy calm stories that help you learn English naturally, you may subscribe to Timeless Stories. New journeys arrive every week. But the story did not end there. It was the summer of 2004. Mark and several friends drove away from Harvard and headed west toward California. They rented a house in Palo Alto. The days were warm. Technology companies were nearby. Investors moved through cafes and offices, searching for the next important idea. Mark intended to return to university in the autumn. He never did. Facebook was growing too quickly. Sean Parker became an important advisor. Parker was one of the founders of Napster, a well-known music-sharing service. He understood Silicon Valley. He helped the young team meet investors and think beyond college campuses. An investor named Peter Thiel contributed $500,000 to Facebook. An investor is a person who gives money to a company, believing it will grow and return more money later. For a company built by students, this was a major vote of confidence. Still, uncertainty remained. Servers cost money. Competitors already existed. MySpace had millions of users. Larger companies had more workers, more experience, and deeper financial resources. Facebook had one strong advantage. It felt real. People joined through university or school networks. Their profiles connected to identities that existed beyond the screen. They entered not simply to visit a website. They entered to find a social world they already knew. The company removed "the" from its name. The Facebook became Facebook. In 2006, registration opened to anyone aged 13 or older with a valid email address. The private campus directory was becoming a public square. That same year, Facebook introduced Newsfeed. Before Newsfeed, users usually visited individual profiles one by one. Now, updates arrived in one moving stream. A new friendship, a photograph, a message, all could appear without searching. Many people hated the change. They felt the company had taken private information and pushed it into a highly visible space. Mark defended the product, but admitted that Facebook had explained it badly. The company added privacy controls. People enjoyed sharing, but they wanted to control the audience. They wanted connection without losing ownership of their personal lives. Now here is where the story becomes interesting. It was 2012. Facebook entered the stock market. The company sold shares to the public at $38 each. Shares are small pieces of ownership in a company that people can buy and sell. Mark was 28 years old. He stood at the center of a company used by hundreds of millions of people. He had already refused to sell Facebook to Yahoo for $1 billion 6 years earlier. He was only 22 at the time of that offer. Many founders would have accepted. Mark chose control instead. Now he moved boldly. In April 2012, Facebook bought Instagram, a young photograph sharing application. Many people thought the price was too high. Instagram had a small team and no large business model. Mark saw something others did not. People were moving from written words toward visual communication. A photograph could cross language barriers in seconds. Instagram later became one of the world's largest social platforms. In 2014, Facebook purchased WhatsApp in a deal valued at approximately $16 billion. WhatsApp offered fast, simple messaging and had become especially popular outside the United States. That same year, Facebook agreed to buy Oculus VR for approximately $2 billion. Oculus built virtual reality technology. Virtual reality is a computer-created environment that a person can enter and experience as if it were real. Mark believed that people might one day meet inside shared digital spaces, rather than simply looking at flat screens. These decisions showed his greatest business strength. He looked beyond the present product, but every expansion also placed more communication under one company's influence. Facebook owned a central social network. It owned a fast-growing visual platform. It owned a major messaging service. It was no longer only connecting the world. It was becoming part of the structure through which the world communicated. With that power came questions that computer code alone could not answer. How much personal information should a company collect? Who should decide what appears in a newsfeed? What happens when a false story travels faster than the truth? There were no simple answers, yet Facebook's systems had to produce answers every day. But what would happen when those answers were not good enough? It was 2018. Reports about Cambridge Analytica shocked Facebook users around the world. Cambridge Analytica was a political consulting company. A consulting company gives advice and services to other organizations. This company had received personal information connected to tens of millions of Facebook users. The data had come through an application that appeared to be a simple personality quiz. Many of the affected people had not directly agreed to give their information to Cambridge Analytica. The story damaged public trust. For years, users had placed photographs, interests, locations, and relationships inside Facebook. Many suddenly realized that their personal information could travel much farther than they understood. Mark apologized. He appeared before the United States Congress, under bright lights, wearing a dark suit instead of his usual gray shirt. He answered questions for hours. The scene was very different from the quiet Harvard dormitory. Now, senators held printed pages. Cameras watched every expression. The young programmer had become the public face of a global problem. In 2019, Facebook agreed to pay a fine of $5 billion to settle allegations concerning privacy practices. Allegations are claims that someone has done something wrong. $5 billion was an enormous penalty, but the deeper loss could not be measured so easily. It was trust. Facebook had asked people to share their lives. Now many wondered whether the company had protected those lives carefully enough. Mark faced a moral turning point. A moral turning point is a moment when a person must decide between what is easy and what is right. He could describe the problem as the misuse of Facebook by outside actors. That explanation contained some truth. But Facebook had created the environment. Its rules had allowed large amounts of information to move through outside applications. Its growth had often been faster than its systems of protection. When you build a road, are you responsible for every driver? Perhaps not. But are you responsible for the dangerous turns, the broken signs, and the missing barriers? That question is much harder to escape. And this is the moment everything changed. It was October 2021. Mark stood before cameras and made an announcement. Facebook's parent company would receive a new name. He called it Meta. The Facebook application kept its name, but the larger company became Meta Platforms. Mark explained that the new identity reflected a wider goal. He wanted to help build the metaverse. The metaverse is a set of connected digital spaces where people can work, play, attend events, and meet one another through virtual and augmented reality. Augmented reality adds digital images or information to the real world around you. Imagine putting on a pair of glasses and seeing both your real room and digital objects placed inside it at the same time. Mark described this as the next stage of social technology. Once again, he was making a large bet on the future. The company invested heavily. It built headsets, software, digital characters, and virtual meeting spaces. Critics questioned the cost and whether ordinary people truly wanted this future. The early demonstrations sometimes looked less impressive than the vision, but Mark continued. Then artificial intelligence moved rapidly into public life. Artificial intelligence, or AI, means computer systems that can learn, understand language, recognize images, and respond to human requests. Meta increased its work in AI, digital assistants, and smart devices. The company that had begun with student profiles was now building machines that could understand human language. The scale had changed enormously, but the basic dream remained familiar. Build a system. Place people inside it. Let them communicate. As of 2026, Mark Zuckerberg remains Meta's founder, chairman, and chief executive officer. More than 20 years have passed since the first version of the Facebook appeared in a Harvard dormitory room. He is no longer the unknown student behind one glowing window. He is a husband, a father of 3 daughters, a builder of global systems, and one of the most debated technology leaders of his generation. Some people see him as a brilliant inventor who gave ordinary people a voice and helped families stay connected across great distances. Others see him as a symbol of concentrated power, a leader whose company grew before society understood the risks. Both views contain part of the truth. Facebook did not simply happen to the world. People chose it. We uploaded the photographs. We accepted the friend requests. We clicked the stories. We enjoyed the birthdays, the messages, the groups, and the memories. Mark's story is therefore not only about one powerful man. It is also about us. It is about our wish to be seen, our fear of being forgotten, our need to belong. A bridge allows 2 sides to meet, but the bridge cannot control what people carry across it. They may bring love. They may bring knowledge. They may also bring fear, or anger, or things that are not true. Mark Zuckerberg built one of the largest bridges in human history. His greatest achievement was making connection easier. His greatest challenge was learning that easier connection does not automatically create a better world. A new language is also a bridge. At first, you learn a few words, then a sentence, then a story. Slowly, another world opens. But the purpose is not only to speak more, it is to understand more. What good is a 1,000-word vocabulary if we never truly listen? What good is perfect grammar if our words do not carry patience or kindness. So learn slowly, speak honestly, listen with care, and one day, each new English word you carry will become a small point of light. And with time, those lights can build a bridge between two human hearts. Tell me in the comments, do you believe a creator should be responsible for how people use what they create? If calm stories like this help your English grow, please subscribe to Timeless Stories. New journeys arrive every week. Thank you for spending this time with me. Until we meet again. Keep learning, keep listening, and carry your words with kindness.